Today, we're diving into a really tragic story from back in 1995. It's about a soldier who was crying out for help and a system that just didn't seem to hear him. And this whole story, it really starts with just two simple numbers. Okay, here's the first number, 18. That's 18 soldiers wounded on a day that should have been just like any other. And then you have the second number, just one. One. That's how many were killed. All of this, the result of a single violent morning. But the really haunting thing about all this, it didn't have to happen. It was a tragedy foretold. So let's go back in time. Picture this. It's Fort Bragg, North Carolina, October 27th, 1995. A crisp autumn morning. It's incredible how fast a normal morning can turn into absolute chaos. You've got soldiers from the elite 82nd Airborne Division. They're all gathering for their morning PT, just a totally routine day. And then, out of nowhere, from a hidden spot, Sergeant William Kreutzer Jr. just opens fire. He was heavily armed, 2 rifles, a pistol, even a knife. And in the mayhem that followed, Major Stephen Badger was killed, and those 18 other soldiers were wounded. In an instant, a training field became a war zone. So, the big question is, who was this guy, Sergeant Kreutzer? What makes a soldier turn his weapon on his own? It's a complicated picture. It's like there were 2 different people living inside him. On one hand, you had the soldier, right? A sergeant in the 82nd Airborne, an elite marksman, the whole package. But then there was the man underneath the uniform, quiet, thoughtful, a guy who read philosophy and even wrote poetry. He was just completely isolated, a total outsider in the very world he worked so hard to be a part of. And if you look at his background, he doesn't fit the mold you might expect. He was an above-average student, joined the Army because he wanted to serve his country, and he was good at it. He earned his spot in a top-tier regiment, but he just didn't fit in with the whole macho, bravado culture. He got teased, even mocked. They actually gave him a nickname, Crazy Kreutzer. I mean, that tells you something, right? People saw he was struggling, but instead of helping, they just dismissed it. And this right here, this is the absolute heart of the story. This shooting wasn't some random out-of-the-blue event. No. It was the final tragic result of so many warning signs, so many pleas for help that were just ignored. I mean, the red flags were everywhere, and they just kept getting bigger. He was paranoid. A full year before the shooting, he had a breakdown on guard duty and literally talked about killing soldiers. He wrote letters to his superiors basically begging to be relieved because he was afraid he was going to hurt someone. And then, the day before it all happened, he told a friend his exact plan, and that friend just brushed it off. And then he did something pretty incredible. Maybe the most responsible thing a person in his situation could possibly do. He walked up and voluntarily turned in his own weapon. He flat out told them, "I don't trust myself with this." He knew he was a danger. He was screaming for help in the clearest way possible. And the Army gave it back to him. So after the shooting, well, the aftermath was long and incredibly complicated, not just for Kreutzer, but for the military as a whole. His legal battle was an absolute marathon. First, in 1996, he was sentenced to death, but then came years and years of appeals, and his very real, documented mental health struggles became the key issue. Finally, in 2009, that death sentence was taken off the table. He pleaded guilty again, and today, he's serving a life sentence at Fort Leavenworth. At his final sentencing, he had a statement read out. And in it, he talks about this deep sense of shame and remorse for what he did. It just shows you, this wasn't just some mindless act of violence. There's a whole other layer of complexity here, with him having to face the absolute devastation he caused. And make no mistake, the punishment was total. It wasn't just life in prison. He was busted all the way down to private, he lost all his pay, and he got a dishonorable discharge. It was a complete and total cutting of ties from the very institution he once wanted so badly to serve with honor. So you might be wondering, why are we digging up this story from 1995? Well, because what happened then leaves us with this huge, lingering question about responsibility. Kreutzer's case really became a flashpoint. It sparked this huge conversation we're still having today about mental health, about stigma, and about when big institutions are responsible. It's just a brutal reminder of what can happen when someone in crisis is just told to suck it up instead of actually being listened to. And that really brings us to the final question, the one that this whole story leaves you with. And it's not just about Fort Bragg or the military, it's about all of us. How many tragedies like this could we prevent if we just learned to listen sooner?